This is a live tech talk that we do every Tuesday and Thursday, today being September 21st, and it's a Tuesday. Today I've got Debbie, Alex, and Jamie here in the studio to assist me with pulling this off. So thank you all for joining, and I know people are jumping on right now, so that's great. Maybe Debbie can give me a heads up on who we got.
I'm sharing.
Oh, apparently she's busy, sorry.
Give me a minute, give me a second.
Today we're going to talk about your favorite subject and mine, Jeeping, everything about Jeeps, building them, running them, the whole 9 yards. And this is a continuation of our terminology series. So this will be part 3 today. And I'm sure we're going to be into 4, 5, 6 pretty easily because we're not making very much headway on every show.
All right, Tony, I'm ready now.
Oh, now you're ready. Okay.
I'm ready now.
Well, if Debbie's ready, we're doing that.
We've got lots of our regulars and some new folks on today. We've got Sam Walker and Kevin Hudson giving us lots of nice hearts.
Up in Washington, awesome.
And Jeffrey Ruerda and Peter Doolin.
Peter, I talked to him earlier.
Kane Johnson and John Miller and Rick Harrington, Clint Lamoureux.
Nice.
Esther Parrott Newcomb, Kelly Sims.
Kelly, he's on the road somewhere too.
We hope.
Oh, and it's his birthday. Happy birthday, Kelly.
Happy birthday,
yeah,
Kelly.
Buddy.
And Terry Mode. Who else we have? Court Killinger, Jeremy Balke.
Nice.
Bobby Belomi, Corey Horton, Deborah Carnell, Jeff Perkins from across the street, Stephen Horsch, Terry Mode. Val is on with us. Awesome. Alan Alvarez, Ed Gladden,
all the way back
Ed
Delaware.
Gladden,
Nice.
And Brett Brenz, and
wow,
I think I already said Rick Harrington.
All right, good job.
Yep.
Well, thanks everybody. I know many of you who are regulars are familiar with a lot of this terminology, but it's always good to review. Maybe even by doing this, you'll be able to better speak to somebody newer who's coming up and keep them interested and not talk over their head and make them feel small. The idea is to get more people excited about off-roading. So we're going to break it down and make sure that everybody understands the difference between a tie rod and a track bar. And that's actually where we're going to start today. Let's see. As always, we welcome your questions and comments. Make sure you include as much information as you can. I'd appreciate that. It'll make it better or easier for me to talk about. Our featured product is still that YJ Hole hood louver. Jamie just put it up on the website. We've got a few left. It's a black textured finish. They're only 99 bucks. That's half price. So you can find them on the website and order them right online. Before I had you calling in, but now you can order. Only good while supplies last, okay? All right. This is where we left off on the last show, so we're going to touch briefly on this. And apparently everybody got a kick out of my description about this red one, how it, is all whittled down right here and tiny, and then it looks like some guy in India ground on it and did a crappy job as always. That speaks to the quality right there. But my point is, you don't want a super bent track bar. You don't want all these clamps. I know some dude sold it to you because they said it's adjustable. Instead, build it at the right frickin' length and keep it as straight as possible, and it will serve you much better, okay? So unless we have any questions on track bar specifically, I'm going to bump
Not yet.
forward. Okay.
Not yet.
We'll see if they crop up. Mm-hmm. All right. We also briefly touched on scrub radius before and the importance of having the wheel pushed back over the bearings, right, on the spindle. This is what happens to most people. They put it on a wider wheel, bigger tire, and then it ends up further out and not actually over both bearings. It's only over the one bearing. So we're trying to get everything better. It keeps the tire from breaking traction and allows it to pivot right on the axis, which is what we're showing you here with the 2 lines, okay? All right, no questions on that. I'm going to bump forward again. And I think it's this next photo that I was trying to get to. So This is why we order a wider axle than stock. You can see the stock one behind it, quite a bit more narrow. And then we push the wheels in over the knuckle. And then that gives you that lower scrub radius or no scrub radius. So all very important, especially, you know, if you're going to spend a fortune on your Jeep, you might as well do it right. Nothing like having to do it over and over and over again. So, yeah. All right. No questions on this. I'm going to keep going because we got a lot to cover.
Wrong.
All right. Kingpin versus regular ball joint knuckle. The big difference and how you can identify the difference, the ball joint is going to have a really wide C, and the Kingpin has a much more narrow C. Kingpin also, a lot of them, you know, the stock ones have this little cap looking thing. The knuckles look very similar, and the people have preferences. You know, we run the ball joint style. They've worked great for us. We've raced King of the Hammers, everything. Part of what I like is this meat right here. I like the extra meat versus how that thins down. So, but everybody has their own opinion on that. You can do whatever you want. I'm just explaining the difference in terminology. Did we add that one slide about the... Okay, so here's what a ball joint looks like, right? It's a few pieces of machined metal that capture literally a ball. Now this little ball has some oil grooves in it to help keep it lubricated between, it's metal to metal, folks. So now granted, it's not spinning at high speed. You know, this is a very low, not even 1 RPM kind of a thing. So they do pretty good. And really what it comes down to is the shear strength within this region right here. And you know, they're used on a wide variety of things, your steering, your knuckles, but basically I just wanted to break this down on what it looked like. And a Kingpin is literally just a solid piece. That's the next slide, okay? Let's check it out. So this is how a Kingpin high steer arm is held on. They use these little tapered sleeves that clamp down as you tighten it to help hold that on. And then we get into caster. So caster is very important. And you know, when you get your Jeep brand new, it comes with 6 degrees of what would be positive caster. Now what we're looking at here is quite a bit more. That's more like 12. It's quite a bit. So what I wanted to explain was, you know, when you get your Jeep, the control arms are perfectly flat. If you have a stock Jeep, or you can go look at one, I'm telling you the control arms are flat. When you start to lift it, what happens is the control arms come down and this rolls forward until you're getting closer to neutral. When that happens, your Jeep starts to get all sketchy on the road and it's trying to find every groove. Now, what happens is you inadvertently listen to some guy at an off-road shop and it gets worse. You know why? Because you put on bigger tires with wheels that are offset like the previous slides that I showed you. So now you've accentuated, you've pushed everything out on the spindle. So now you've got more leverage on all the equipment, the steering equipment, the track bar, everything, and you have no caster. So your poor Jeep is searching for anything on the road, and meantime, you're behind the wheel white knuckling and you don't know why. This is why. 100%, there's no doubt in my mind, this is exactly why. And as your tires start to wear, this only gets worse and eventually turns into death wobble. Okay? So any questions on that? Oh, Deb's got questions already.
We've got a scrub radius question from Brett Behrens. He said, does there exist a chart for backspacing with axle length? He's got a 2015 JKUR stock axles, KMC, 3.5 backspace, bead locks, and his tires are 35 by 12.5 R17.
Okay.
He's going to 37.
Yeah, so that's only going to get worse. So you're already in this category. This was stock, which was not quite perfect. You've made it worse. So your stock wheel had a 5-inch backspace, 5 inches. Okay, you went to 3.5. You just moved it out 1.5 inches and you put a wider tire on. Now you're going to a bigger tire. So see how this juncture intersects? Well, the bigger the tire gets, the worse that gets, right? So this is where there isn't any charts. This is something that you've got to look at. You can see how the red line goes through the two joints on the knuckle, what we were talking about, were kingpin versus ball joint. And then you've got your axle right here where the two bearings sit, and you're trying to keep those as close together as possible. See how this one, they're getting further apart? You want that intersection as close as possible. Now, here's the reality. Your buddies, you see guys all the time, they're like this, they don't know the difference, they don't wheel that much, whatever. To me, handling, performance is important. When I get into a situation where I want to be able to turn the vehicle and have it behave exactly how I want, I'm counting on this. So the closer you can get to that, the better. And I'm merely trying to explain this because it frustrates me when I see the aftermarket, whether it's off-road shops or wherever you're buying stuff online, just sells you all kinds of crap, and it's not helping you. They're compounding the whole issue, and I want to be the one to tell you how to do it right. So you can just take it for what it's worth, and it might work for you for a while. It all depends on how many miles you drive, how hard you are on your vehicle, what kind of wheeling you're doing. So, more questions, Deb?
Yeah, VB Tom asked if the caster angle is based on the position of the shock.
So the caster angle is actually based on how tilted this is back, the knuckle. So no, it has nothing to do with the shock. It's all about the knuckle. Let's get back over there. In this case, the diagram we found was done around a McPherson strut, which is a very common way on most automobiles. But this would be represented in the knuckle on your axle. So when you buy a GenRight axle, we have the C welded on, turned, and we have the pinion pointed up toward the transfer case. And now you can cut the C's off your axle. You can get the pinion pointed right, cut that off, turn it where you want it, and re-weld them on. It's a very laborious process, but it is possible. I've done it on many, many axles before. Most people don't hassle it. They'd rather just deal with it because they only drive a few miles to work and back. And quite frankly, when you're off-road, they don't find that this matters as much. What I can tell you here is, have you ever seen a high-end sports car like a Mercedes or a BMW? They run 10 plus degrees of caster. When those cars turn the wheels, when they turn, the wheels actually, it's like when you ride a motorcycle or a bicycle, they lean into the turn, okay? So not only are you getting better turning, you're actually getting how the whole thing works. What, the cup?
Someone used this as an analogy for me, like when you spin the cup.
When you spin the cup and how it actually turns by itself. Right. Yeah, it's like a natural kind of a thing. So yeah, it works a lot better. And it also changes the characteristics of your chassis, which helps your vehicle turn better. So and again, I'm trying not to get too super technical here. I'm just trying to explain terminology so that when you're at the alignment shop or at the off-road shop or talking to your buddies, you understand where caster even is. Okay, so when your wheels are like this is camber. Okay, caster is this, leaning back. Okay, yep, James got a question?
Would an easy way to fix caster, would an easy way to fix that being having adjustable upper and lower control?
Very good question. So the question was, can't you fix the caster if you have upper and lower adjustable control arms? The answer is yes. But here's what happens. So if you go from here, so what happens is this. Your pinion here is correct, right? It's pointed right at the transfer case, and you've got a good alignment, and you get no driveline vibration. When you do this, when you get the caster, now your pinion's pointed down, and your drive shaft has to go like this. That's the problem. That's why a lot of the time we have to cut and turn the C's. And that's why when we make our axles, we spec that's how we do it. We put the C in the right spot, so you have the right amount of caster at ride height. Everything's done at ride height, okay? For our, well, I mean, it's, even if you finagled your own Frankenstein deal, you'd still want the caster correct, so, yep. Oh, James got another one.
Sorry.
It's okay.
What's the best place to measure caster on housing?
So it has to be done out at the knuckle, and sometimes, do we have a knuckle in here? Alex, is there one over the corner? Yeah, I know we had one running around in here with a high steer arm on it that makes it really easy. Hang on, well, here we go. Okay, so let's throw it right up here. Okay, actually this is perfect because it's got a blank high steer arm on it. Okay, so typically this arm is perpendicular to the two ball joints, or it could be kingpins, right? So what's going to happen is you need this to lean back like this, okay? Now, simple guideline, if you just look inside the wheel well of your Jeep, you should be able to look down past the top one and see the bottom one. If you can't, you have zero caster. You'll be looking straight down onto the bottom one, you got nothing. If it's slight, you got bare minimum. If you can see the hole, you got the right amount of caster, okay? So that's a great way. That's how I do it. As soon as somebody tells me they have steering trouble, I just walk over and stick my head in the fender well and look. Okay?
See the hole.
Yeah.
Stephen Horsch, my caster is 3 degrees. What should it be?
Yeah, it should be at least 6. Every GenRight vehicle rolls out of here with 10. Okay? So, yeah, 3 is, you're getting really close to this, man. That's nothing. And that also means that when your axle articulates out, you're going past 0. Okay? So, because I can tell you with a 14-inch shock, when that fully articulates out, you got 1 degree. So you go from 10 to 1. So.
Jenny Vachner, how do you feel about JL Rubicon 3.5-inch lift on 39 KM3s that measure out to 38.5 with American Racing beadlock 4.75 backspacing? Yeah,
that's fine. You're probably gonna get a little bit of rubbing, on articulation, maybe not. Most of those lift kits, like I showed you 2 episodes ago, include a spacer that moves the bump stop. So, when you're stock, you get about 3 or 4 inches of wheel travel. So even though you put a lift kit in, it doesn't increase your amount of travel. All they do is give you another bump stop, so now you have the same amount of travel. It's cheesy. They should be ashamed of themselves for making a kit like that, but it's how everybody else does it. I'm sorry. So, yeah.
Bob Preston.
Jamie's laughing.
Bob Preston said, thank you for sponsoring the Unlimited LJ Venture.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm glad everybody had a good time. Jeff came back with some awesome pictures. I can't wait to see the video from that event. Looked like there's some nice rigs there. Did you see the one that went over backwards on Copperhead?
I didn't see the pictures.
Man, that.
You showed me some other pictures.
Dude, that's you loop over backwards like that. That's a hard hit, man. You're gonna have a headache.
Are we gonna see some pictures on the Tech Talk?
No, this was strictly terminology, but at some point.
I mean next week or when you're done with terminology.
Yeah.
Let's see. Danny Ashley, Tony and Tech Talk is the best. I'm learning so much, but it's costing me more money to fix all my issues I didn't even know I had.
I'm sorry. All of my friends complain about it too. You know, they're like, oh, you know, I had to get a better Jeep, I had to buy a bigger trailer, I had to get another motorhome, blah, blah, blah. But what I can tell you is they've never had so much fun than hanging out with me. So that's what I can promise you in return. All right? And a good operating Jeep that won't leave you stranded. You'll be able to kind of smile when everybody else is back there having trouble and you're like cruising. So, because you did it right.
And Sam Walker's laughing that Enfuego's back.
Yeah, well, Sam Walker stepped up and did it right.
Your own Frankenstein deal, that sounds Okay, let's see. Mark Shaneman. I have a 2004 Super Duty front 60 that I'm building and want to follow the recommendation of keeping a good scrub radius with a 17 by 8.5 wheel and 4.75 back spacing on 40s, but I'm running into the problem that high steer arms limit the amount of back spacing I can run. What do you guys do with high steer arms, and what do you recommend?
That's what you need. So everybody else makes a straight high steer arm. It has to be cut back, and it should fall in line with the factory ear on the knuckle. So this is the shape. You know, there's a bunch of companies that make these. Again, I've worked with Curry for a long time. We've come up with all this stuff, and we're doing it right. We do these every day. I can run a 5-inch backspace wheel with this setup. So, and actually, this is the limiting factor down here. This factory ear, not this. So, good question, and you've got a lot going in the right direction. Where your challenge is going to be, because I'm all too familiar with that front end, is you're not going to have enough room on the short side of the axle to even get a bracket on between the differential housing. You're going to end up cutting a bunch of the casting away, and you got some work cut out for you, but it is possible. And you might have to cut and turn your C's to get the right amount of caster on there. So it's fine. Just you know now what you should do. So.
You may have already summarized this. Mark Lawrence asked, what's acceptable caster range? Yeah,
it depends on who you talk to. Factory is 6 degrees, okay? And I don't know if you remember when you drove, if you even ever drove a stock Jeep, but it drives just like a car. You can let go of the wheel. You know, if you're turning and you let go of the wheel, it'll come back. Like those are all the characteristics of the right amount of caster. So if you've ever had an opportunity to drive a Mercedes, a Porsche, a BMW, like you can turn, let go of the wheel, and it will come back dead straight. And it's all because of caster, okay?
Gord Killinger, you're probably already headed there, but toe in or out for best balance of desert, speed, and crawling.
Yes, so this is a little bit more advanced, right? And toe in and toe out are definitely terms that you should understand. So let's back up. It's either 1 or 2 slides here. I guess it's 3 or 4. Here we go. Okay, so toe in and toe out has to do with on the center line of the wheel, or you can think about it in terms of your rotors, right? If you do 0, just like the caster, if your toe is 0, then it's going to look for anything going down the road. If you add a little bit of toe out or a little bit of toe in, what it does is it gets the wheels to push or pull as you drive forward. Now you might be thinking to yourself, hey, that sounds like it's going to wear the tires. It does. It wears them slightly. Now we're not talking about a whole lot of toe. If you drive your Jeep on the street, we're talking about an 1/8 inch of toe, in or out. Now, if you're more advanced and you like to do a lot of off-roading, then you're going to want an 1/8 inch or so of toe out. What this does is it puts all of the steering components under load. So the moment you drive forward, it takes the slack out of everything and makes your steering nice and tight. Okay? When you're neutral, if you have any kind of play in anything, then it all gets a chance. Again, we're going back toward death wobble, right? You got no caster, you got no toe. You're literally up there letting those, I mean, if you just took a wheel and rolled it down the street, have you ever seen what happens? The thing gets all cattywampus and falls over. That's exactly what happens on your Jeep, okay?
You want to explain where to measure toe in and toe out from?
Well, typically, you would put a stripe on the tire, and then you'd measure it, right? We sell a bracket that can be bolted on, and then that gives you a front and rear point so you can check the difference between them. But typically it is measured out at the surface of the tire, okay? If you don't have the ability to do that, you can do it based on the discs, but typically you want just a little bit of toe out. When we race, we run a lot of toe out, okay? Because what happens is it gets the inside tire to really turn. So not only do we have a lot of caster, but now when we go to turn, it's really carving the corner for us. So there's a whole lot of, and I don't want to get too technical, but you guys you're asking great questions about toe in and toe out. I always run a little bit of toe out, and it keeps that front end tight. All the slack comes out, and it's the right way to go. Okay, but I'm going to tell you the factory spec is a little bit of toe in. Okay, for a factory vehicle.
Casey Henderson said, I've had a reputable local shop tell me having a ½ degree of separation is normal. I find that a bit odd.
½ degree
of separation.
Like just ½ degree of caster?
I guess, yeah.
Man. Unless they're talking about camber. So if you've ever seen a Jeep and like this, see how these wheels almost appear? It's the camera angle that they're kind of tilted out. If you see one where they're tilted in, it's because the ball joints in the knuckles are gone, or they jumped it and they bent the housing. We call that smiling, right? So the axle looks like this and your tires look like this. That's not good, by the way. It's going to wear the inside of your tires, and it's going to be bad. So you want your tires nice and straight. If you ever notice that, then by the way, as things wear, they're just going to tip in a little bit by a degree or two. But if you can see it with the naked eye, then you've got worn stuff. You need to fix it. They should stand straight up and down, okay? So next time you're out standing in front of your vehicle, by the way, your rear tires will be nice and straight. So if you sight down your front tires to your rear and your fronts are slightly in, then you've got worn stuff and you need to fix it, or bent housing. So, which is part of the reason that we go to something beefy like this, because they don't bend. I mean, I've jumped this off a 30-foot jump before and it's been fine, so yeah. More questions?
Let's see.
Anything on your end?
I've got one off topic. What about you, James?
2015 JK Rubicon in West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Is there any authorized GenRight shops on the East Coast?
There are a couple of shops back there. What I would recommend is call in, talk to my guys. Our phone number is right on our website, and get a recommendation from them. Not only do they need to know what vehicle you have, but what kind of work you want done, and they can point you to a shop that would be able to help you out. Okay? All right. I'll keep going unless you got more.
I have one more slightly off topic.
Sure.
Does your 3-link bracket clear the drive shaft on a TJ?
It does. Yeah. Okay. So they're probably talking about frame side, I'm gonna guess. And we're about to show. We're now transferring into the next realm of our tech talk, which is front suspension. We're doing good on time today, by the way. We'll probably get through front and rear, depending on the number of questions. So I'll just kind of go forward unless you have something right now.
I have one off topic.
Okay.
Matt Pulowski, will your skid plates fit without the rest of your kit? 2016 JK.
No.
Will not.
No. The problem is all the cross members are curved. You got the gas tank hanging down. All that stuff needs to go away. And my sales guys can help you step through an affordable way to do it so that you do it in the best order, so that you're not doing steps twice. So just call in and talk to Andrew or one of the guys, and he'll be able to help you out.
Just a reminder to repeat Jamie's question since he doesn't have a mic. People are having trouble hearing the question.
Okay. The question Jamie read off was, a gentleman in West Virginia was asking about a qualified shop near him. If you're ever curious about a qualified GenRight dealer in your area, just call in, talk to my guys. They'll not only ask you what Jeep you have, but what work you're looking to get done. Because I'll give you an example. We've got a guy in Jacksonville, Florida that restores Jeeps, right? But I'm not going to send a JK there, right? If you got a CJ, he's your guy. So we just need to know what you're looking to do. You want a roll cage welded, or an elite suspension put on. That's a very small group of guys.
And there is a form on our website under company. If you go to dealers, we have something that has what they're looking for.
Okay. So Jamie was just reminding me on our website, it's not a blue bar anymore, but there's a bar, and in that it says, products and shop by vehicle. The very right-hand one is company. And if you hit that and it drops down, there's one that says dealers, and then there's a form there that you can fill out, and one of my guys will reply to you. Okay? Or you can just pick up the phone the old-fashioned way and call in. So, all right?
David Cundy, doesn't Ackermann help with inside tire turn-in quicker?
It does. Again, another very technical aspect, and I wasn't necessarily going to go there unless somebody asked. So that has to do with, you're going to draw a line from where the tie rod hooks through this upper ball joint, and it needs to hit the middle of the rear axle. And that's how you measure Ackermann. So that then determines how fast, and basically, if you've ever looked at the steering on a car, the tires don't just turn like this, right? The one will turn this much, and the other one always turns a little more. That's why. So they do it so that your outside rear tire is moving much faster, and that inside has to make a smaller circle, like we were doing with the cup, right? So that's what it's all about. But yes, very good question.
Jeff Barnard, so the best course of action is to scrap my axles and suspension and get the JKU Elite suspension and Curry axles from GenRight.
So here's the deal. I guess I'm explaining it right because you came to the proper conclusion. The good news is that somebody else that's not watching this program has no idea, and they will buy that stuff from you, okay? And they'll be like, woohoo, I just got a deal. Yep. Sell it to them for full pop. All right. You can make what you have work. You can probably enjoy it for years. More so than anything, I want you to understand. Look, when I got into Jeeping, nobody told me the right way to do it. Look, if I was explained the right way and I did this, then when stuff went sideways, I didn't have anybody to blame but myself. I should have done it the right way, right? But I don't know about you, but when I go to do something, I want to do it the right way. I don't want to be the guy that's broken or stuck or spending money 2-3 times because they never sold me the right parts.
Well, and it wasn't just the money. It was the inconvenience. It was the time. It was the effort. It was the other fun things you could be doing that you couldn't do because you had to work on your Jeep.
Or how mad my wife was because the dang Jeep broke.
You were asking for more money.
And I was asking for more money. Yeah, trust me, I've been there. Like, you think that's funny, do you? Yeah. All that happened before I started GenRight. Yep. That's why I was like, you know what? If this is the best the industry can do, I'm going to kick their ass because I was tired of it. Jamie's laughing. By the way, it was an easy butt to kick. All right. Oh.
Okay. Can I just slip one in? Mark Lawrence, 04 LJ. I'm planning on the Legend lift next year with rear stretched 5 to 7 inches. Can I use the 67-inch WM to he's saying,
I know what it is. Just
WM to WM.
Yep.
It will be Curry Dana 60 from your shop, question mark.
Okay, so 67 is the way we used to do it before we came up with the 70-inch wide WMS, right? So you just have to run a slightly more offset wheel. So instead of like a 4 3/4 backspace wheel, you're gonna run a 4-inch backspace wheel. Your scrub radius won't be quite as ideal, not the end of the world, you're still ahead of 95% of everybody else out there, okay? Can you run a 42-inch tire? Probably not. 40 is gonna be the biggest you can run without just rubbing on the shocks. So these are, guys, we don't necessarily always, like go, well, here's why you gotta do this, that, and the other thing. Sometimes you just have to take our word that we've got it figured out, right? And when you see a vehicle like Kelly Sims Silver Surfer on 42s, we took the time to figure out running a 42, full articulation, that it doesn't hit the shocks, that it all works together. So when you run a 40 beyond that, you're like way in the clear. And it's also, on the flip side, why you hear me say, oh, if you've got a stock Rubicon axle, the most you can go with is a 37. Because when you articulate with coilovers, you're gonna rub them. So, and look, a little bit of rubbing, not the end of the world. You rub the paint off the spring, who cares? But if you rub a lot, you're gonna damage the shock shaft, and that's gonna blow the seals, and then you're gonna have a mess. So, and I don't know where you live, but I've got the best connection in the world with King and Fox, and even that's a pain in the butt for me. So, all right, what else we got?
Got another one, Jay?
Yeah. On a 2005 TJ, is it best to run the track bar on top of the axle or on front somewhere near the stock location?
So the track bar is all about the length. It doesn't necessarily matter, and I'm gonna say this in real basic terms, where it is. This is where I wish I had a whiteboard. Could you get me a whiteboard and a marker? I see a whiteboard over there. Do we have a marker handy? Maybe.
I got one on my desk.
What's this? Hang on. No. I think I got something here.
Just grab a Sharpie.
No, you can't use a Sharpie
Yeah.
on a whiteboard.
All I have is a silver Sharpie though. Give me.
Color one right there.
That doesn't wreck
Will this thing work?
Yeah. Might smear a little bit, so.
Might smear a little bit. Okay. Here's what we're gonna do. Stay there. All right. So when you look at a front axle, so let's draw the pumpkin in. And we're gonna be looking down. So this is the top of the C. Okay, so we're looking down, this would be the pinion sticking out this way, right? And the diff cover would be on the front right here. When you run a track bar, typically what happens is you don't want to run directly over the axle because now you got to put a big bend in it like I showed you earlier how you don't want bends. So what we do is we mount on the frame side, we mount the track bar mount here, then the track bar runs across the front and then over to a bracket on the axle, okay? Now, what's important is you've got your steering box in here, and your steering box is typically, something in here with your pitman arm, and then you've got the drag link that has to run over to the high steer arm, right, off your knuckle. These two, the drag link and the track bar, must be the same length. This is super, super important. They should be in the same plane, equal, okay? And they should be the same height. So if we were to rotate this around and you looked at them, I've shown you guys many pictures where when you look at one of our Jeeps, you can't even see the track bar behind the drag link because they're perfectly in line, okay? This is everything you need to do to fix that, and that causes bump steer, okay? So hopefully my crude drawing here makes sense, and we can come up with a better graphic, I guess, for a future show. So, okay? All right. What else we got?
Jeremy Weathersby, Jeep TJ, was there a generation of, I think it's LP 44 in the Rubicon that
Low pinion 44s.
That does not have the upper control arm mount cast in. Mine is a welded on upper control arm mount. All of the brackets look like the Curry brackets, but that they have on their site. The width appears to be a stock TJ, but I'm having trouble fully identifying the type of LP44 or origin.
Okay, so it was common to steal a 44 front axle out of an old Wagoneer. And those were obviously leaf spring way back then, did not have the ear on top, or you got a 44 that somebody cut the ear off because they wanted to make some kind of a cool bridge for it. Also bad call. So really, honestly, you know, you don't want to weld on your axle any more than you have to. Every time you weld on it, it's changing its shape. And you really want to do the minimal, or you got to take it to somebody very, very, very qualified, like my race guys here, that preload the housing, weld on it, and when you let it go, it goes back to straight. Very, very experienced people to do that kind of thing. Yeah, you know, it could be a Wagoneer 44. A lot of the differential guys, you know, I know there's a West and East Coast specialty, Yukon. Some of those guys might be able to help you identify with exactly what axle that is. So, all right. Okay, go for it, James.
Go ahead.
Off topic, I see lots of daily drivers on subtract and Curry axles, not many on welded housings like spider tracks, but you see the Ultra 4 guys racing them all the time. Any issues running those on a daily driver?
Most of the time what happens is, you know, if you try and take a fabricated 9-inch and put it into a Jeep, it's just expensive. The 9-inch axles were really only made for Ford rear ends, common in Mustangs and a lot of other vehicles. They became very popular because the gear set is easy to change. The Ultra 4 guys run them for that reason, that when they want to change gear ratios or service the bearings or the differential of any kind, it's easier to service. But when you take an axle like that was designed as low pinion, you flip it over, and now it's got to be high pinion, then it doesn't oil right. So they have to do a whole bunch of fixes. You're talking about a very, very expensive front axle. Put the knuckles on, do all that. It's 100% custom, and that's the only reason why you don't see more of those.
One more. Alien Fab 4x4. PSC assist on my 2011 JK. I have my front axle yoke pointed at my transfer case, so my caster is like 2 to 4 degrees, but it still drives well. Running 37s, will this cause weird or bad wear?
What'll happen is as if it drives well right now, you know, God bless you, you're one of the lucky ones. But what I can tell you is as things wear, as every little ball joint gets a little bit of slack in the track bar, that thing's gonna start getting all over the place, and your tires will wear more, and then it's gonna turn into death wobble. So just keep an eye on it, keep it tight, and you know, you might be okay for a while. So, and it's just gonna be a little bit more of a handful on the road. So.
That's all I got.
Okay. All right, Deb. Looks like she's got some.
I've got a couple of off-topic questions.
Sure.
Is it too early for those?
No, we could try it.
Okay. Matt Pulowski, what are your thoughts on the hand throttle?
Oh, if you're a stick shift, you better have a hand throttle. If you just got into Jeeping, the hand throttle should be your absolute first upgrade. I don't care if you've even got stock tires and wheels, you should get a hand throttle. It's cheap. I think we sell them. There's a lot of people that sell them. And they sell a cable version, which is literally like a bicycle shifter, and they sell an electronic version. You can kind of get all over the place. But here's what I can tell you. You then can set the RPM that you want, so that you can ease the clutch out and stay in control when you're off-roading. Otherwise, if you're trying to heel and toe it and do all that stuff, you're going to be one of those guys that's bouncing around. And if you don't believe me, go on YouTube and watch any freaking video. Those are all those guys that are just a bunch of yahoos that are, you know, throttle jockeys all over the place. And that's why, because you can't drive smooth. It's very difficult. It's the reason why all of us have switched to automatics, and we have high stall torque converters so that it smooths everything out. It's a little bit more advanced concept, but yeah, hand throttle, I'd highly recommend it. What else you got?
Zach Uptill, side question regarding the cage. Is there a strength difference between good MIG versus TIG welding on a cage?
So I'm going to tell you this. The only reason, and this is, you know, really surface without getting into a whole bunch of stuff. The only reason race cars and other stuff are TIG welded is typically because it's very thin tubing, okay? So with MIG, you put a lot of heat in, you know, you're going to town on that thing. Our tubes are 120 wall, they're 1/8 inch thick. No reason to TIG weld that thing. You're literally taping $100 bills on there for no reason. Every one of my previous KOH race cars, all MIG welded. There's no reason to TIG weld that stuff. Like, just put it together and get out there and have some fun. Stop working on it in the garage. TIG welding takes forever. It's literally like 10 times longer, and it's not worth it. Especially when you yard sale it on the next downhill and then you've got a smashed up cage and you're like, great, I just took 10 weeks welding this thing and now it's already bent. So, no, but you know, look, the fact that you might lay it over or scrape it on a rock or something, you know, just use it. Get out there and have some fun. Okay? All right, what else you got?
There's a lot of discussion about how you're going to get your marker off your whiteboard.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Brake cleaner takes it right off. Okay, let's start talking about suspension. So here's one of those low pinion 44s the guy was just asking about. This one happens to have the ear on it. So this is typical TJ, JK, what it looks like underneath there. However, this gentleman has already upgraded the control arms because your stock ones look like this piece of junk. So this, I don't know if you can hear that or not, it's maybe 2 or 3 times as thick as a Coke can. It is steel, but it's formed metal that gives it the shape. But I'm telling you, you touch this on a rock and this thing turns into a pretzel.
And it's not even like fully boxed.
No, it's not. It's hollow. And okay, so look, again, the reason Jeep makes it this way is because they have to pass the crash test. This son of a gun will fold up underneath the Jeep if you hit anything more than a curb, okay? And it's designed to do that, right? That's you know, you want to go off-roading and bash rocks and do all kinds of stuff, so we put these big beefy ones on. Downside is now it's torquing on every bracket and everything that was welded onto it, right? On here, brackets, bigger. Like, oh, like this. Yeah, like, you know, here's one off one of ours, right? Way bigger, right? Vulcanized rubber in your stock one. You know, we're using spherical rod ends, you know, or Johnny joints, like much, much better.
And that's a good picture to show how the links stock are pretty much parallel to the frame.
Yeah, they're pretty straight. In fact, most of the time, these are just 0-degree brackets. They're not even angled in or anything. Oh, yeah. When I was saying that this is what I was talking about, you know, where, and then you lift it and it starts doing this, right? So now think about this, you know, you lift it up and now every bump you hit, instead of the suspension going up, it's trying to go back, right? There's a whole bunch of things that just end up going wrong when you just try and throw a lift kit in a stock Jeep, right? Because you're using all the factory mounting points. Now, does it let you get a bigger tire so you look cool on Friday night when you're cruising Jack in the Box or wherever you like to cruise? Sure, okay, but if you want it to work right, that's a completely different deal, okay? All right, so you can see one of the upper link mounts here. It's on this little tower. Those aren't very thick either. And then you've got an ear off the top of this with another arm over here. I didn't want to get too crazy into this, but I wanted you to understand what it looks like under a Jeep, just straight, regular Jeep. Oh, here's another total pile of crap, radius arms. So if anybody tries to sell you this, I want you to run, okay? Don't ever go back there. They don't know what they're talking about. This is total hoopty. You don't want this on your Jeep. A few years, when I say a few years back, 10 years ago, maybe more, there was a few guys that tried to do this. The reason they do it is it's cheap, right? And they're trying to just kind of finagle, Frankenstein is another word I'd use, something together. You don't want this. This isn't right. Again, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to say any more on that. Don't do it. Here's another version of it where the arm goes down and then kicks up. I don't know if they can see that because it's all black. This is more common, by the way to do the radius arm. There's a number of lift kits on the market today that use this kind of a system, radius arm. And I don't recommend them at all. Again, they're cheap, they're affordable, they're quick for the shop to put on. They're not right for you, okay? If you're going wheeling. I'm telling you, you put a kit on like this, and it's what I would describe as a one-trip kit. You're gonna go on one trip, and that thing's gonna be clapped out. So, and don't be surprised, because I told you.
Told you so.
Told you so. All right.
A question, Tom.
Okay.
Arizona Rob, which backspacing on a 2000 XJ with 6-inch 4-link setup? Monster Raceline 17-inch by 8.5-inch with 315-70-17 Milestar Patagonia.
Okay, so it was an LJ, 2006 LJ?
XJ 2000.
And he said he had a 6-inch backspace?
6-inch 4-link setup.
Oh, lift kit.
What backspacing, he's asking?
It has to do with axle width. So if that guy can give me an axle width, that would be helpful.
Arizona Rob, axle width.
Wheel mount surface, yep. And he told me the tire size. And is he still leaf spring or is he going coilover? I need to know that. Okay. All right. This, as many of you know, and if you've ever been on our website, is what our stuff looks like over on this side. This, again, is another version of stock. In the later years, look at this. Jeep actually boxed the arms. So you didn't get the sheet metal thing anymore. You actually got an actual tube structure arm. But again, all the brackets hang down. You look at ours, all the brackets are tucked up, right? Here's your transmission cross member hanging down. Ours is tucked up. We've learned that stuff doesn't work, and our arms are a lot longer to compensate for the change in geometry. So you can see nothing hangs down on the bottom of the axle. And by the way, a Curry 60 like this has the same ground clearance as a standard 44. So, you gain a lot by going with an aftermarket, high pinion axle. That's high pinion over there. Yeah.
And you got to this point. Remember, you always used to say you'd come back from a trip and whatever was.
Oh yeah.
You figure out a way to cut it out and make it.
So Jamie's referring to when I built the Growler. So what I would do is I'd go on a trip, and anything that had a scrape mark on it got cut off. Right, I was like, in my mind, I'm like, that's the last time that thing's gonna hit, right? It's going away.
But that's how all this evolved.
That's how it all evolved. That's exactly right. And if you notice, even if you do scrape on something, it will slide and transition into the next thing. It's not like this hanging down that's just gonna bunk, now we're stuck, rip off. It's gonna get, those things are smashed all the time. And you're going to have somebody pull you or winch yourself or whatever to get off that thing. And you're going to be lucky. Your exhaust is right there. You're going to be trashing everything, So, again, you just got to decide what you're doing with this vehicle. If you're not sure, call in, talk to my guys, talk to me, whatever. We know how to guide you. So we just really want you to understand. The other thing that I want to point out is, you'll notice there's only one upper link on our front end. We don't have that one like the stock did. We eliminate that. So the stock 4 link in the front, which is actually a 5 link, by the way, because the track bar counts as a link, just technically. So we say it's 3 link, but there is a 4th link, which is the track bar. But what happens is this becomes a completely bind-free system. It moves very smooth. When you add the 4th link, it starts fighting itself, and that's what blows out all these rubber joints. So, what happened is they designed it to have that resistance, because that helps improve the stock vehicle's handling. Okay, again, it's all just a matter of understanding, how Jeep built the vehicle and why they did it, and how it all works. So, and again, you're just going to the snow or down a fire road to go camping, that'll get you there and you'll be fine. What do you got?
Arizona Rob answered your questions. He's got long arms, stock Dana 30, Chrysler 8.25 leaf springs, stock width, long arm setup.
Okay, so then he's probably going to be in the 3 3/4 backspace range to run that size tire. Okay. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I've got a question from Terry Mode.
Okay.
I see some companies are selling cages that say not for off-road use. So dumb. Can you talk about the insurance that is needed for a true off-road cage?
Yeah. So, we live in a very litigious society, right? So a lot of companies aren't either confident in their product or have any insurance, quite frankly. So that's another thing I would investigate before you buy from one of these aftermarket companies, because a lot of them don't even have insurance, or if they do, it's not enough. I can tell you ours is very expensive every month, and we've also, that's part of the reason that we put a lot of emphasis on our racing. Okay, we've built this stuff, we know what it takes, we've rolled it over 100 miles an hour. I mean, guys and gals, there's no doubt we've got it figured out, and when it goes sideways, you're gonna want the best thing you got. That's why I was talking about it before, as saying, that's like an open face helmet versus a full face helmet. And the problem is that sometimes it's not even an open face versus a full, sometimes it's a bicycle helmet versus a full face helmet. I mean, your stock stuff is not much. It's to hang a top on, that's about it.
It's also part of the reason we have our website. If you don't know how to weld, don't weld it yourself.
That's right. Jamie's saying, go seek a qualified welder and installer to put your cage in if you're not qualified to weld a kit yourself, or you can buy one from us pre-welded. It's not super tough, but obviously when you're talking about a safety item, you're talking about the cage, steering, brakes. Those are important things that if they malfunction, it could end up being a bad day. So
I've got a couple off-top questions.
I know, we're right there.
It's 5 o'clock.
So yeah, I think we're fine with where we stopped here. Nobody else on suspension on either side?
Not here, no.
Okay, all right, then give me those, Deb.
Carol Lori Ward, 2018 JKR with Metal Cloak 2.5 Game Changer suspension, 35s with 4.25 backspace. What's next to prevent problems?
That's actually a decent setup. So in terms of you haven't gone too much lift, you've got good backspacing, you should be okay. Now, what you're going to be just keeping an eye on is natural wear and tear, depending on how much you're off-roading and how hard you're off-roading. For instance, what I do off-road is probably you know, in one weekend is probably years worth for somebody else, right? So I don't know, you know, what your wheeling looks like, but on that setup, that should last you a while. And a lot of it has to do with how much lift you do. So the more lift you add, the more stress it puts on everything, right? Because that also means you're running a bigger tire, and a bigger tire is heavier and leveraged out. You know, it's just physics. A lot of this is really simple. And if you just understand that and drive your vehicle appropriately, it could last for years and years, for sure. What else you got?
Brett Behrens, can you please re-explain how larger tires will make scrub radius worse?
Sure.
And you can do it offline if you need to.
Yeah, maybe I will, because maybe I'll draw a couple diagrams and.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's Brett Behrens.
Okay.
Is there an update on the TJ to LJ kit conversion, when it'll be on the website?
That was my plan to work on today, and I got sidetracked on 100 other things. I would say I'd do it tomorrow, but Jamie and I have to go pick up 16 axles from Curry with our gooseneck trailer tomorrow. So we got a lot of axles coming in. So if you're in the market for axles, please call in. We got them in stock. And then I'll be able to work on that. But, you know, then we're going to be back to Thursday and we'll be doing another tech talk. So,
Mark Lawrence, buying Raceline beadlocks. What is your recommended rim width for 40-inch tires?
Yeah, I still believe in an 8.5 or a 9-inch max. Do not go past that. Or it makes the profile wrong. On, you know, a 40 is going to be a 1350. You don't get the squish, which means when you air down, you're not getting an increase in footprint. The thing just sits too square. So hopefully that makes sense, but that's how it works. Okay.
Okay, we're caught up.
Well, we did good then.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to stop here today. We have a lot more to go. Trust me, I got a ton more slides behind this on rear suspension and more. We're still trying to get through the terminology. So tune in on Thursday, and I'm going to have a whole bunch more stuff for you. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you then.